My child, I want to start by telling you something that I need you to hear before anything else is said. I know about the wound. Not the wounds you talk about, not the ones you reference in prayer, not the ones you have found language for and been able to share with trusted people in your life. I know about the other one, the one underneath all of those, the one you have never fully shown anyone, including yourself. The one you have covered so carefully, so consistently, so creatively, that even you sometimes forget it is there, until something brushes against it, and the reaction is bigger than the moment warrants, and you have to move quickly to explain it away, to reframe it, to make sense of it to the people watching. I know about that wound. I have always known. And I need you to know that the very place you have been hiding from me is the place where my healing begins. This is not an accident. The fact that the wound you keep most hidden is also the wound that needs the most attention. There is a logic to it that I want to walk you through today, because understanding why this is true is part of the healing itself. You were made for wholeness, not the wholeness that looks whole from the outside, while the interior is fractured and sealed and suppressed. True wholeness, the kind where the outside and the inside are aligned, where there is nothing living in the dark that is contradicting what is presented in the light. And the path to that wholeness always goes through the hidden place, never around it. You cannot get whole by avoiding the wound. You can only get whole by bringing it into the presence of the one who made you, and trusting that what I find there does not change how I feel about you. Let me tell you what I find when I look at the hidden wound in you. I find something that was put there by forces outside of your control. I find the evidence of something that happened to you, or something that was withheld from you, or something that was supposed to happen but never did, and the absence left a shape inside you that has been bleeding quietly ever since. I find a human being who did exactly what human beings do when they are overwhelmed. They closed off the most overwhelming part. They sealed the thing that was too big to deal with in the moment. They wrapped it in silence and protection and survival strategies and carried on, because that was the only option available. And I do not condemn any of that. I understand all of it. But I am here today because the thing you sealed and carried and protected is still alive in there. It did not resolve itself with time. It did not dissolve under the weight of your achievements, or your relationships, or your faith practices, or your determination to be better than your past. It is still there, still bleeding, still shaping everything, and still waiting for the moment you would finally let me in. Today is that moment. That is why you are here. I arranged this. I called you to this screen, to these words, at this specific time in your life, because I know you are ready. Even if ready feels like the wrong word, even if you feel far from ready, even if part of you is already looking for the exit. Something in you said yes to this. Something in you clicked on this, or kept watching, or stayed when you could have left. And that something is the part of you that is tired of carrying what you have been carrying. That part of you knows the wound is there, and that part of you wants, more than anything, to finally not be alone with it. You are not alone with it. You were never alone with it. I was in the room when it happened. I was present in the moment the wound first formed. I was there in every subsequent moment, when it was reopened and deepened and made more complex by whatever came next. I was there in every night you lay awake with it, and every morning you got up and chose to carry on without dealing with it. I have been present in all of it. And I want you to know something about my presence in those moments that you may not have known at the time. I was not passive. I was not a distant observer watching your pain with detached compassion. I was actively working, even in the silence, even in what felt like absence, toward this moment right now, where you would finally be ready to let the wound come into the light and let me do what I have always been prepared to do with it. So here is what I am asking of you today. I am asking for one thing, just one, not perfection, not a complete overhaul of your relationship with pain, not the immediate resolution of everything that has been hidden, just one thing, openness, the willingness to be honest, here in this space, about the fact that the wound exists. You don't have to name it perfectly right now. You don't have to have the words for it or the full story of it or the theological framework to understand it. You just have to be willing to stop pretending, even just in this moment, even just with me, that it isn't there. That is enough. That is the beginning, and I will do the rest. My child, if this word is reaching you today, I want you to support this ministry through the link given below. This message is going out to people who have been hiding the deepest wounds of their lives, and they need to hear it. When you give, you become part of that healing, reaching people who are not yet ready to ask for help, but are desperately needing this word. It is a divine assignment, and your partnership makes it possible. Now let me talk about hiding, because I want you to understand the psychology of it, the spirituality of it, the way it works in the human heart and the human body and the human soul. I want you to understand it, not to condemn you for doing it, but to help you see it clearly enough that you can begin to make a different choice. Hiding is almost never a conscious decision. Nobody sits down one day and says, I am going to hide this wound for the next 30 years. Hiding is a response. It is what a human being does automatically when they encounter pain that is beyond their current capacity to process. When something happens that is too overwhelming for the existing resources to manage. Whether those resources are emotional maturity, relational support, cognitive frameworks, spiritual grounding, or simply the basic safety of being in an environment where vulnerability is permitted. The system does the only thing it can do. It compartmentalizes. It seals the unbearable thing off from the rest of functioning life so that functioning life can continue. This is not weakness. This is actually a remarkable feature of the human being that I designed. The capacity to continue living and functioning and even thriving in certain ways, while simultaneously carrying unprocessed pain, is a form of resilience. It is the survival mechanism that has allowed human beings to keep going through things that would otherwise be completely incapacitating. I do not minimize that. That capacity has served you. It got you through moments and seasons that you literally could not have survived if the full weight of the wound had been present and active all the time. But here is the thing about survival mechanisms. They are designed for the crisis, not for the rest of your life. They are designed to get you through the acute emergency, the moment when there is no other option, when everything depends on keeping it together and moving forward. They are not designed to be permanent architecture. When they become permanent architecture, when the compartmentalization that was meant to be temporary becomes the structure of your whole interior life, they stop being protection and start being a cage. And the wound inside the compartment does not die from being sealed away. It waits, it grows in certain ways, it leaks in certain ways, and it keeps you from being fully present and fully alive, because part of you is always managing the distance between yourself and the thing you have locked away. You know this to be true. You feel it in the moments of disconnection, when you are with people you love and you notice that you are not quite all the way there, that there is a pane of glass between you and real intimacy, that you are participating in the conversation, but something in you is held back, watching, managing the distance. You feel it in the overreactions, when something small touches the nerve of the wound and the response comes out bigger and more intense than the situation called for, and you have to explain yourself, or you retreat in shame from your own reaction. You feel it in the exhaustion, the kind that is not about how much sleep you got, but about how much energy it takes to keep the sealed off thing sealed off, to keep the managed presentation consistent, to maintain the version of yourself that the world sees, while simultaneously containing the hidden version that the world does not. That exhaustion is real, my child, and I see it on you. It is not a character flaw. It is the cost of a strategy that was never meant to be permanent. And I am here today to offer you a different way, not a more effective hiding strategy, not a better coping mechanism. Actual healing, the kind that addresses the thing itself, not just the management of it. Now let me speak about the specific shape that hiding takes in different people's lives, because hiding is not one thing. It takes many forms, and each form has its own texture, its own logic, its own particular way of keeping the wound protected, while simultaneously keeping the whole person imprisoned. Understanding the specific form that your hiding takes is part of being able to recognize it and begin to release it. Some of you hide the wound under achievement. You discovered early on that performing well, whether in school, in work, in ministry, in relationships, in the way you keep your home or manage your appearance, earned a form of approval that made you feel temporarily safe. And so you built a life around achieving, around performing, around being impressive enough that no one would look past the performance to see what was underneath it. You are the capable one, the reliable one, the one who always comes through, the one people call in a crisis, the one who never seems to need anything from anyone. And somewhere inside that brilliant, accomplished, always put-together person, there is a wound that has never been seen. A wound that says, you are only lovable when you are useful. A wound that says, rest is dangerous. Vulnerability is dangerous. Needing anything is dangerous. A wound that was formed in a moment when you were a child or a young person, and the message came through, whether explicitly or implicitly, that your value was contingent on your performance. I know about that wound, and I need to say something to you clearly. You do not have to perform for me. I am not impressed by the achievements in the way you think I am. I see through them to the frightened, exhausted person underneath who has been running for so long they cannot remember what it feels like to just stop. And the stopping, the genuine rest, the actual laying down of the performance cannot happen until the wound underneath it is addressed. Because as long as the wound is telling you that your value is contingent on your output, rest will feel like a threat, not a gift. But I want you to rest. I want you to know yourself as someone who is loved completely independent of everything you produce or perform or provide. And the only way to get there is to let me into the wound that has been driving the performance. Some of you hide the wound under religion. You discovered that spiritual activity, prayer, worship, service, study, giving, the whole apparatus of religious life, could serve as a way of staying close enough to me that you felt covered, while simultaneously keeping me at arm's length in the specific areas where the real wound lives. You pray long prayers, and they are real prayers, but there are certain things you never bring to me. You worship with genuine feeling, but you have never fully surrendered the particular thing you are most afraid I might judge you for. You serve others constantly, in part because serving keeps you moving, keeps you facing outward, keeps you from sitting still long enough to feel what is actually inside you. I see this form of hiding very clearly, and I want to say something that might be uncomfortable. Religiosity can be one of the most effective hiding places there is. Not because religion is bad. I created human beings for worship and community and spiritual practice, and those things are good. But because the outer forms of religion can feel so much like closeness to me that you can maintain the appearance of intimacy without actually bringing me the real thing. And what I want from you is the real thing. I want you to come to me in the dark place, in the hidden place, in the actual wound, not just in the parts that are presentable and spiritually correct. Some of you hide the wound under humor. You became the funny one, the light one, the one who can always find a joke, who deflects intensity with laughter, who has used wit and charm and the ability to make people smile as a way of staying lovable without ever being truly known. Humor is a gift, and I delight in the joy of it. But there is a specific type of humor that is armor. The kind that comes out whenever a conversation gets too close to the real thing. The kind that undercuts vulnerability before it can land. The kind that has become so automatic you don't even know you're doing it anymore. And underneath that constant lightness, there is often a profound longing to be taken seriously. To be seen in the pain, not just in the entertainment value. To have someone say, I see what you're actually carrying, rather than laughing at the way you have repackaged it. Some of you hide the wound under spiritual certainty. You have developed a very confident, very settled theological framework. and that framework serves as a container for everything that might otherwise feel threatening or destabilizing. When doubt arises, you suppress it with doctrine. When pain comes, you immediately reach for the right scriptures. When something in you wants to ask why, you shut it down with an answer that feels correct, but that bypasses the actual experience underneath the question. And the result is a faith that is intellectually impeccable and emotionally sealed, that can defend every point but cannot actually be present with the suffering, that knows all the right things but has never quite learned to feel the fullness of what it means to be loved. I am not threatened by your questions. I am not destabilized by your doubt. I am not disappointed when you say, I don't understand this. I don't know how to make sense of this. This hurt me in ways I cannot find the right theological frame for. In fact, the questions and the doubts and the honest confessions of confusion are the very things that open the space for real encounter. When you stop performing certainty and come to me in your actual state, I can meet you there. I can speak into the real questions. I can be real to you in a way that doctrine alone will never achieve. But that requires letting the wound come forward, even the wound of your confusion about me. Some of you hide the wound under numbness. You have been through so much, or the wound was so severe that you have essentially disconnected from your own emotional life. You don't feel much anymore. Not the lows, but also not the highs. Not really. You exist at a kind of middle temperature that never gets too hot or too cold, that is functional and even pleasant in many ways, but that is missing the pulse of genuine aliveness. And this numbness feels like relief, feels like you have successfully moved past the pain, feels like healing. But it is not healing. It is suppression at its most complete. It is the wound so deeply sealed that it has taken the feeling function with it into the vault. The healing of numbness begins with the willingness to feel again, even if the first things that come when the numbness lifts are not the pleasant things, because the mechanism that suppresses pain also suppresses joy. They are connected. You cannot selectively unseal the pleasant feelings while keeping the painful ones locked away. Full aliveness means full feeling. The grief and the joy, the fear and the peace, the anger and the love, all of it. And I will walk with you through the process of learning to feel again. It will not always be comfortable, but it will be real. And real is what leads to whole. Some of you hide the wound under busyness. Your schedule is so full, your obligations so constant, your involvement in so many things so demanding that there is simply never a quiet moment in which the wound could surface. You have constructed a life that is, among other things, a very effective avoidance of stillness. Because stillness is where the things you have been running from catch up with you, and so you keep running, you keep filling the calendar, you keep saying yes to the next thing. You keep finding reasons why slowing down is impossible, impractical, irresponsible, and the wound waits, patient, untouched, getting neither better nor worse, simply waiting. I want to speak something to you very directly, my child. The busyness is not a virtue. I know it feels like it is. I know in the culture you live in, busyness is often honored as a sign of importance, of productivity, of full engagement with life. But in my economy, busyness that is primarily driven by avoidance is not a sign of health. It is a sign of someone running from something. And you cannot outrun the wound. You can delay the encounter with it indefinitely. But delay is not healing. And every year you delay costs you something. In aliveness, in intimacy, in the quality of your presence, in the relationships that matter most to you. Let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with it honestly. If you had a completely free day, no obligations, no people needing things from you, no tasks on the list, just space, what would come up in you? What feelings would surface? What thoughts would get loud? What would start pressing on you from the inside now that the busyness that normally suppresses it has been removed? Whatever comes up in your honest answer to that question is close to what I want to address with you. Because the things you are most afraid would surface in the quiet are usually the things most in need of healing. Come to me in the quiet, my child. I know it is uncomfortable. I know what will come up when you do. But I will be in the quiet with you. And what comes up, I can handle. What surfaces when the busyness is removed is not something to be afraid of in my presence. It is the very thing I have been waiting to address, my child. Please support this ministry through the link given below. Every person who is watching this has a story of hidden pain, and this word is for all of them. Your support keeps this message going. Now I want to talk about shame, because shame is the most powerful wound keeper there is. Shame is not just the feeling of having done something wrong. Shame is the belief that you yourself are wrong, fundamentally, constitutionally, at the level of your identity. Shame says, not just, I made a mistake, but I am a mistake. Not just, I did something bad, but I am bad. Not just something terrible happened to me, but something terrible happened to me because I am the kind of person terrible things happen to. And shame is the reason so many wounds are kept hidden, because the wound and the shame are intertwined. To expose the wound is to risk the shame being confirmed. If you bring the hidden thing into the light and the response is judgment, disgust, withdrawal, or simply the look on someone's face that says, I didn't know it was that bad, the shame is confirmed. You are what you feared you were. So the safer option, always, is to keep it hidden. I want to address shame at its root. And the root of shame is a lie about your value and your identity. Every human being who is living under the weight of shame has at some point received a message. Through what was done to them, through what was said to them or about them, through what was withheld from them, through the conclusions they drew from the events of their life, that they are fundamentally less than worthy, less than lovable, less than deserving of the good things, less than capable of being truly known and truly accepted. And that message took root in the interior, and over time, it became the organizing principle of the whole personality. Everything was built around it, either to manage it, to compensate for it, to disprove it through achievement, or simply to survive in spite of it. The truth about your value is this: you were made by me. Before anything happened to you, before any of the events that formed the wound, before any message of lesser than was received and believed, I made you. And when I made you, I looked at you and said it was very good, not adequate, not sufficient, very good. And nothing that has happened since has changed my assessment of the original creation. The wound does not define the creature. The damage done to something beautiful does not make it ugly. It makes it something beautiful that has been damaged. And that is a very different thing, because beautiful things that have been damaged can be restored. They cannot simply be restored to what they were before. They are restored to something even richer, something that carries the evidence of healing, something that has a depth and a beauty that only comes from having been broken and put back together by the hands of the one who made it. You are not your wound. You are not the thing that happened to you. You are not the message of lesser than that you received and believed. You are my creation, made in my image, bearing my likeness, loved with a love that preceded every injury and will outlast every scar. That is the truth about you. And shame loses its power in direct proportion to how deeply that truth takes root. So we're going to do the work of rooting it in, not just repeating the words, but actually letting the truth go all the way down into the places where the lie has been living, and displacing the lie from its position and establishing the truth in its place. That is the work of healing. It is deep work. It is not done in a moment, though moments of breakthrough are real, and they happen. It is done in the ongoing encounter between you and me, in the daily turning toward truth, in the willingness to challenge the shame narrative when it arises, and replace it with what I actually say about you. And I will be in that work with you every step of the way. You are not doing this alone. Now, let me speak about a particular kind of hidden wound that I want to address very specifically, because I believe many of you who are watching today carry this one in ways that you have never fully named. It is the wound of the good child, the responsible one, the one who never caused trouble, the one who took care of other people's emotions from a very young age, the one who read the room and adjusted themselves accordingly, who learned to sense what the adults around them needed and provided it, who became so skilled at managing other people's experiences that their own experience got entirely overlooked, often by themselves. If you grew up in a home where there was addiction, mental illness, chronic conflict, instability, or simply a deficit of emotional attunement, where the adults in the room were dealing with their own overwhelming things and were not available to fully meet your needs, you may have developed this pattern. You became the capable one because there was no one else to fill that role. You became the peacemaker because someone had to. You became the emotional manager because the alternative was chaos. And you became very, very good at it. And in the process, you lost access to the interior life that was developing underneath all that management. Your own feelings got buried under the project of managing everyone else's feelings. Your own needs got suppressed under the habit of anticipating and meeting everyone else's needs. And now, decades later, you are still doing it. You are still the one who takes care of everyone. You are still the one who manages the room. You are still the one who is last to express a need, last to ask for help, last to admit when you are not okay. And deep inside, in the place that was formed in the home that required all of that caregiving, there is a wound that has never been touched. The wound of the child who took care of everyone and was never taken care of in return. The wound of the one who gave everything and never learned to receive. The wound of the one who was so busy being strong that they never got to be small. My child, you are allowed to be small with me. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to not have it together. You are allowed to receive care without immediately converting it into something you can give back. I want to be the one who tends to you, not the one you tend to, not the one whose expectations you manage, not the one you perform for to ensure the security of the relationship. I want to hold you in your need, in your smallness, in the places where the capable exterior falls away, and what is underneath is just a person who has been very tired for a very long time. Let me hold that part of you. It is safe here. I will not put you back to work before you have rested. I will not take care of you now, only to need you to take care of me later. I am a God who gives and does not need to be replenished by you. My wellspring does not run dry, and I want to pour into the places in you that have been empty for so long that you stop feeling the emptiness as emptiness and started calling it normal. It is not normal to run on empty. It is not holy to give from a depleted place. It is not faith to suppress your needs indefinitely. It is survival. And I am calling you out of survival mode into the abundant life that I promised. The life that has enough in it, that is full enough to give from, that is whole enough to sustain the giving, without requiring the giver to disappear into the act of giving. Let me now address another specific shape of hidden wound that I see in many of you, and that is the wound formed in betrayal. Betrayal is a wound unlike others because it compounds pain with confusion. When you are hurt by someone who should not have hurt you, someone whose role in your life carried an expectation of safety, whether a parent, a spouse, a pastor, a close friend, a mentor, the wound is not just about the hurt itself. It is about the collapse of a framework you were living inside. You had built your understanding of how the world works, of who is safe, of what love looks like, around certain assumptions. And when the betrayal happened, it didn't just hurt you. It shattered the framework. It made you question not just the person, but your own judgment, your own ability to read people, your own right to trust. And so this wound often goes double deep into hiding, because bringing it into the open means admitting not just that someone hurt you, but that you were wrong about them. It means confronting the disorientation that comes when someone you trusted completely used that trust against you. It means acknowledging that the world is not as safe as you needed it to be, that people are capable of things you did not want to know they were capable of, that love, even the love you experienced as real and genuine, can sometimes be an incomplete or even false thing. For many of you, the betrayal wound has never been processed, because processing it means sitting in that disorientation without a quick exit. It means letting yourself not know, for a period of time, who is safe. It means letting yourself be in the question of how you trust again without the rushed reassurance that everything is fine and people are trustworthy and the incident was isolated. It means grieving not just the specific betrayal but the loss of the innocence that existed before it. I am sitting in that space with you. I am not rushing you through the disorientation. I am not giving you a too quick theological answer that bypasses the actual experience of having been deeply let down by someone you loved. I am present with you in the confusion and the grief and the anger that comes with betrayal. And from that place of presence, from the safety of my company, I will slowly, carefully, at your pace, begin to rebuild your capacity for trust. Not naive trust, not trust that ignores warning signs or pretends that people are incapable of harm. Wise trust. Discerning trust. The kind of trust that is rooted in knowing me as the ultimate safe one, and from that secure base, learning how to extend carefully calibrated trust to others without either shutting everyone out or giving everyone everything. This rebuilding takes time, but it happens. I have seen it happen in person after person who came to me with the wound of betrayal and said, honestly, I don't know how to trust anymore. I walked with them through the grief and the anger and the disorientation, and I showed them myself as trustworthy, not through words and promises, but through presence, through showing up in the small moments, through the slow accumulation of evidence that I am not like the one who betrayed them. And as they learned to trust me again, they slowly, gradually learned to trust again more broadly. The wound did not disappear, but it lost its dominance. It became part of their story rather than the entire story. That is what I want for you, not the erasure of what happened. The story is part of you, and the healing of it will make it part of your testimony rather than your ongoing wound. But the healing of it, so that it no longer organizes your whole relational life around its own self-protection. I also want to speak very directly to those of you who are carrying a wound that you believe is too severe to bring to me. Maybe it involves something you did, something you are deeply ashamed of, something that you have been able to do a fairly good job of not thinking about most of the time, but that surfaces in the dark moments with a force that takes your breath away. Maybe it involves something that was done to you that is so painful to acknowledge that you have effectively split yourself from it, that there is a whole part of your history that you do not let yourself look at directly, that you refer to only in the most peripheral way, even in your own mind. Maybe it involves a combination of things, a history so complex and layered that you wouldn't know where to begin, even if you were willing to begin. There is no wound too severe for me. I need you to hear that not as a platitude, but as a specific, personal truth about your specific situation. Whatever is in that sealed vault, I have seen worse. Whatever history you are protecting yourself from looking at directly, I have been in worse histories with people I loved just as much as I love you, and I brought healing there, and I will bring healing here. The severity of the wound is not the variable that determines whether healing is possible. The only variable is whether you will let me in, and I understand if letting me in feels dangerous. I understand if part of what the wound involves is a complicated relationship with me, if the wound happened in a context that was explicitly religious, or if the people who caused the wound invoked my name while causing it, or if you prayed and believed for healing or intervention and it didn't come the way you needed it to. If any of that is true, then the wound and your relationship with me are entangled in ways that make the healing more complex, but not less possible. In fact, the entanglement is exactly why you need to bring it to me directly, because the version of me that was invoked to harm you, or the version of me that felt absent when you needed him most, is not an accurate picture of who I am. And you deserve to encounter who I actually am, not the distorted version that the wound has left in your mind. Who I actually am is this: I am for you, completely, without reservation, in every moment of your history, in every season, in every experience. Even the ones that felt most abandoned, even the ones that felt most betrayed, even the ones where my absence was the wound itself. I am for you. I am not the God of the wound, the God who permitted what happened because you somehow deserved it, or because your faith was insufficient. I am the God who is with you in the aftermath of the wound, weeping over what happened, furious on your behalf at what was done to you, and completely, absolutely committed to the work of healing and restoration. Let me come into your story at the point of the wound. Let me be present there in a way that begins to change the meaning of the memory, not by erasing what happened. I am not asking you to pretend it didn't happen or to minimize the impact of it, but by adding to it the dimension that was missing in the experience of it, the presence of someone who loves you, who is stronger than what happened, who has the power to bring something real and good out of something that was devastating. I want to speak now about the body, because I know that for many of you, the wound does not only live in your mind and your emotions, it lives in your body. And this is something that is rarely talked about in spiritual settings. But I want to address it because the healing I bring is for the whole person, not just the parts that feel most spiritually relevant. Trauma and many hidden wounds are at their core traumatic, even if we do not use that word for them, is stored in the body. This is not metaphor. This is biological reality. When something overwhelming happens and the nervous system does not have the capacity to complete the full cycle of the stress response, fight, flight, or freeze. The incomplete response gets stored in the tissues, in the muscles, in the fascia, in the nervous system itself. And it stays there, creating a bodily baseline of vigilance or numbness or dysregulation that affects everything. The way you sleep, the way you breathe, the way your stomach feels in certain situations, the way certain sounds or smells or words produce a physical response that your rational mind has not caught up to yet. I made your body. I understand its systems at a level of complexity that no human science has yet fully mapped, and the healing I bring extends into those systems. It is not only psychological, it is not only spiritual, it reaches into the places where the wound lives in the physical form. Where there has been held tension, I bring release. Where there has been chronic hypervigilance, I bring rest. Where the nervous system has been locked in patterns of protection, I begin the patient work of establishing new baselines, new normals that are organized around safety rather than threat, around peace rather than alarm. This is why spending time in my presence, genuine time, not performative prayer, but actual resting in my peace, has physical effects. The body registers the safety of my presence. The nervous system learns, over time, that the presence of God is not a threatening stimulus, but a calming one. And that learning accumulates. Slowly, gradually, the physiological baseline shifts. The body learns to rest in a way it couldn't before. And that physical resting supports and accelerates the healing that is happening in the other dimensions. I want you to practice this. Not long, elaborate, theologically sophisticated prayer. Just presence. Just sitting with me, breathing, allowing the body to register my peace. Every day, even for short periods, the investment will compound. The body will learn. And as the body learns, the other dimensions of healing will have a more stable foundation to build on. Now let me speak to those of you who are carrying the wound of prolonged loneliness. Not the loneliness of being without people, though that may be true as well. I mean the particular loneliness of being surrounded by people while feeling fundamentally unknown. The loneliness of the person in the room who is laughing at all the right times and responding correctly to everything, and appearing to be fully engaged, while on the inside there is a complete sense of separateness, of watching from behind glass, of being in proximity to connection without actually experiencing it. This loneliness is one of the most painful of all wounds, I believe, because it has the additional layer of invisibility. There is no obvious marker that you are suffering. From the outside, everything looks fine, or even good. You have people in your life. You have relationships. You are not objectively isolated. And so the loneliness does not get acknowledged or addressed because it does not appear to exist. And you, unable to explain why you feel so alone when on paper you have so much connection, begin to wonder if something is fundamentally wrong with you. You begin to believe that you are defective in your capacity for intimacy, that the problem is not the wound, but your essential nature, that you are simply someone who cannot be truly known because you are not truly knowable. That is a lie. You are knowable. The fact that you have not yet been fully known does not mean you cannot be fully known. It means the circumstances and the wound that drove you into isolation have not yet been healed to the point where full knowing was possible. But the capacity is there. The longing is there. The longing itself is evidence of the capacity. You cannot ache for something you are constitutionally incapable of. The depth of the loneliness is a testament to the depth of the need for connection that I built into you. And I honor that need. I made you with it. It is not a weakness to long for genuine intimacy. It is the voice of your design, calling you toward what you were made for. I am here to meet that longing at its root. The most fundamental intimacy is intimacy with me. When you are truly known by me, not just doctrinally assured of my knowledge of you, but experientially known, in the felt sense of being seen and accepted and loved in the specific texture of who you actually are, something begins to shift in the loneliness wound. Because the root of the loneliness, in most cases, is not really about other human beings. It is about the disconnection from the one who made you, the one in whose presence you are always supposed to find your fullest belonging. And when that connection is restored, when the intimacy with me becomes real and felt and daily, the loneliness does not always disappear overnight, but it loses its desperation. It becomes less acute. Because you are no longer searching for something with the frantic urgency of someone who has never had it. You have it in me. And from that place of having, of belonging, of being known at the deepest level, you begin to be able to extend outward into human relationship in ways that were previously too frightening. This is the sequence. Connection with me first, then the restoration of the capacity for human connection. Not the other way around. Not using human relationship as a substitute for the connection with me that you actually need, but finding in me the security base from which genuine human vulnerability and intimacy become possible. Please support this ministry through the link given below. This word is going out to people who are alone in their deepest wounds, and the reach of this ministry is what makes it possible for this word to find them. Let me now speak about the healing that specifically happens in the hidden place, because there is something I want you to understand about why I said that the wound you keep hiding is where my healing begins. It is not arbitrary. It is not that I am drawn to the dramatic or that I want to expose what is most sensitive just to prove a point. It is that the hidden wound is always the most foundational one. The wounds that are visible and acknowledged, the ones you have language for, the ones you have been through counseling for, the ones you have processed with trusted people. Those are real and significant, but the hidden wound is almost always the one that is underneath them, the one that the visible wounds were formed in defense of, the one that, if healed, would actually shift the landscape for all of the other wounds as well. Think of it this way. When a tree is diseased at the root, you can treat the branches, trim the damaged sections, fertilize the soil around it. All of those things have value, and they may even improve the visible appearance of the tree. But the disease at the root continues, and it will continue to affect the tree no matter how much you do at the level of the branches. The only real cure is the one that gets to the root, and the hidden wound is, most often, the root. This is why healing it changes everything. When the foundational wound, the one that has been hiding under all the layers, is brought into the light and genuinely healed, the effects radiate outward. Patterns change that you have been trying to change through willpower for years. Relationships shift without you engineering the shift. The exhaustion that has been the background of your life begins to lift. Things that used to trigger you stop triggering you in the same way, or stop triggering you at all. Sleep becomes different. Prayer becomes different. The experience of being alive becomes different in a way that is hard to articulate, but unmistakable. I have seen this happen. I have been present in the moment when someone finally brought the hidden wound into my presence, and I touched it with my healing, and they felt something change at a fundamental level, not just emotionally, not just in their thinking, but in their deepest interior sense of who they are. I have seen people walk differently after that moment, speak differently, relate differently, not because they manufactured a new behavior, but because something foundational shifted and the behaviors naturally reflected the change. That is what I am inviting you into, that foundational shift, that root-level healing. And it begins with the willingness to stop hiding the hidden thing. Now, I want to address something that might be creating resistance as you listen to this, and that is the question of what happens after you stop hiding. If you bring the wound into the open, into the light of my presence, into honest acknowledgement, into the process of healing, what then? What happens on the other side of that? Many people avoid beginning the healing journey not because they don't want to be healed, but because they are afraid of who they will be when they are. The wound has been part of their identity for so long that the prospect of not having it feels disorienting. Who are you if you are not the person carrying this particular wound in this particular way? This is a real and important question, and I want to honor it rather than dismiss it. Identity does form around wounds. The strategies you developed to manage the wound became personality traits. The compensations you developed became strengths. The things you built in response to the wound became significant parts of your life. And the fear is, if the wound heals, do all of those things disappear? Do I lose the person I became in the process of surviving this? Here is what I want to tell you. Healing does not erase you. Healing reveals you. The self that emerges from genuine healing is not a diminished self, not a self stripped of everything that made you who you are. It is the fullest version of you, the one that contains all of the strength and depth and capacity you developed in the survival of the wound, but now without the wound itself driving it. The resilience is still there. The empathy you developed from your own pain is still there, but now it does not cost you yourself to extend it. The capacities you built are still there, but now they're being used from a whole place rather than a broken one. Think about it this way. A muscle that is always contracted in protection, always braced, always tense, always ready for the impact, can still move, can still function, can still do significant things, but it is never fully expressive. It cannot extend to its full range because part of it is always in defensive posture. When the threat that caused the constant bracing is removed, when genuine safety is established, the muscle can finally extend to its full length. And in that full extension, it discovers capacities that the constant bracing was preventing. It can do more, not less. It is more fully itself, not less. That is what healing does to you. You do not become less. You become more fully yourself, more fully capable, more fully present, more fully alive. The wound was the thing limiting the full expression. Its healing is not a loss of self. It is the discovery of self, perhaps for the first time. Now let me speak about the healing process in some practical terms, because I know that some of you are ready to move forward, and you need some sense of what moving forward actually looks like. I do not want to give you a formula, because healing does not follow formulas, and every person's journey is specific to them. But I want to give you some markers, some waypoints, some things to look for as the healing unfolds. The first marker is the moment of honest acknowledgement. This is where it begins. Not a dramatic confession, not a tearful breakdown, not anything performance-oriented. Just the moment of internal honesty. The moment you say to yourself and to me, there is something there. Something I have been carrying that I have not fully acknowledged. something that needs to come out. That moment of honest acknowledgement is enormously significant. It breaks a seal. It opens a door. It is an act of courage. Even if it does not feel courageous, even if it feels just like exhaustion, finally overcoming resistance. The second marker is the experience of being met. After the acknowledgement, something needs to happen. And what needs to happen is not more thinking or more processing or more information. What needs to happen is encounter, the experience of my presence specifically in the wound. This is why I said earlier that letting me into the hidden place is the key. The wound does not begin to heal just because you acknowledge it. It begins to heal when you experience my presence there, and that experience is available. Seek it. Ask me to come into the specific place of the wound, not generically, not a prayer that says, "Heal me, Lord," in a blanket sense. A specific, detailed, honest invitation. I have this wound that has been hidden for this long, and I am bringing it to you now, and I am asking you to come into it, to be present there, to let me feel you there. And then wait. Sometimes the meeting is immediate. Sometimes it takes returning to the place of invitation multiple times before the experience of presence breaks through. But it comes. I am not hiding from you. I am waiting for the invitation. The third marker is the movement of grief. Most hidden wounds have grief associated with them, grief that was never allowed to complete, grief that was suppressed when it first tried to arise, grief that has been living in compression under the seal of the wound. When the wound comes into the light and my presence enters the wound, grief often begins to move. And this is good. This is healthy. This is the wound beginning to release what has been locked inside it. Let the grief move. Do not immediately try to spiritualize it or reframe it or find the lesson in it. Just let it be grief for a while. Grief that is allowed to move completes. Grief that is suppressed becomes sediment. Let it move, and trust me to be present with you in the movement of it. The fourth marker is the shift in the narrative. As the wound receives healing, as the grief moves, as my presence becomes established in the previously hidden place, the story you tell about the wound begins to change. Not the facts of the wound, those remain as they are, but the meaning of it, the thing it says about you, the conclusion you drew from it about who you are and who I am and what the world is. Those conclusions begin to loosen. The lie begins to lose its credibility. The truth begins to feel more real, more applicable, more personally true. This is an important marker because it often signals that the healing is taking root at the identity level, which is where it needs to take root in order to produce lasting change. The fifth marker is the change in pattern. This one takes longer, but it is one of the clearest signs that genuine healing has happened at the root level. When the foundational wound is healed, the behaviors and patterns that were built around it begin to change, not through effort or willpower, but organically, naturally, as the necessity for them diminishes. The constant striving begins to ease. The people-pleasing that was a survival strategy starts to feel less compulsory and more optional. The walls begin to come down in the relationships where it is safe for them to come down. The running begins to slow. Not all at once, not without moments of regression, not without the occasional re-triggering of old patterns, but the direction of change is unmistakable, and you notice it. Others notice it, and in that noticing, the reality of the healing is confirmed. My child, I want to speak now about the courage it takes to do this work, because I do not want to minimize what I am asking of you. I am not asking for a small thing. I am asking you to go to the place that has been most carefully protected, most consistently avoided, most defended against examination, and I'm asking you to open it. And I know that feels terrifying. I know there are very good reasons, formed in very real experiences, for the defenses that protect the wound. I know that the sealing of it made sense when it happened, and I know that every time you have considered looking at it directly, something in you has found a reason not to. So let me honor the courage it takes and speak directly to the fear. The fear is usually some version of this. If I actually look at the wound directly, if I stop managing it and suppressing it and come into full contact with it, I will be overwhelmed. I will not be able to handle what comes up. I will lose control. I will fall apart in a way that I cannot recover from. The wound is so big that looking at it directly will be destructive rather than healing. Here is the truth about that fear. The wound feels bigger from the outside of looking at it than it does from the inside. The anticipation of the contact is almost always more frightening than the contact itself. Not because the wound is not real and not significant, but because the anticipation does not include the variable of my presence. You are imagining facing the wound alone because every time you have approached it in the past, you have been alone. But that is not what I am asking you to do. I am not asking you to go into the wound alone and see if you can survive the encounter. I am asking you to go into the wound with me. And that changes everything. With me present, you will not be overwhelmed. With me present, you will not lose control in a way that destroys you. With me present, what has felt unmanageable becomes not easy, but manageable. Because the resource that was missing when the wound first formed, the loving, present, capable, healing presence, is now there. You are not doing this with the resources you had at the time the wound was made. You are doing this with me. And I am more than adequate for this. I also want to address the fear of what healing will reveal about the people who caused the wound. Many wounds involve other people. Specifically, people who were supposed to love you well and didn't. People whose choices or failures or cruelties produced the damage you are carrying. And part of why the wound stays hidden is that looking at it directly means confronting the reality of what those people did or failed to do. And that confrontation feels to many of you like a betrayal, like an accusation, like something you are not allowed to do because of loyalty or because of forgiveness, or because the person is dead and you cannot have the conversation, or because the relationship is still active and you cannot afford the disruption of honest reckoning. I want to say something carefully but clearly about this. Healing does not require that you accuse anyone to anyone else. It does not require confrontation in the relational sense, if confrontation is not safe or appropriate. What it does require is internal honesty. The acknowledgement to yourself and to me of what actually happened, what the actual impact of it was, what the actual wound it left was. That internal honesty is not a betrayal of the person who hurt you. It is not hatred. It is not the same as condemning them. It is simply truth-telling. And truth-telling is not a violation of forgiveness. In fact, real forgiveness requires truth-telling. You cannot genuinely forgive something you have not genuinely acknowledged as wrong. The minimization and the excuse-making that often accompany hidden wounds. It wasn't that bad. They didn't mean it. They did the best they could. These are not forgiveness. They are suppression wearing the costume of forgiveness. And they do not produce the freedom that real forgiveness produces. Real forgiveness involves looking at what actually happened and saying, this was wrong. This caused real damage. I am not pretending otherwise. And I choose, with the help of God, to release the claim this offense has on my present and future. Not because it was acceptable, because my freedom is more important than my continued imprisonment by what they did. That kind of forgiveness is powerful. It is liberating, and it requires the wound to come out of hiding first, because you cannot forgive what you have not acknowledged. I will help you with the forgiveness. That is my specialty. I am the most forgiving being in existence, and I can pour that capacity into you as you face the wound and all that surrounds it. But we have to get there honestly, through the wound, not around it. My child, please support this ministry through the link given below. The message going out today is for the deeply wounded, the ones who have carried hidden pain for years and decades. Your giving enables this word to reach them. Support this ministry through the link given below and be part of this healing movement. I want to now speak about what happens when you begin to heal at the level of the hidden wound. And you discover that the people closest to you are not always prepared for who you become. This is a real thing that happens, and I want to prepare you for it so that you are not destabilized when it does. When you have been living in a particular set of patterns for a long time, the patterns built around the hidden wound, the survival strategies, the management systems, the people in your life have organized their relationship with you around those patterns. They know the managed version of you. They know how to interact with the capable one, the strong one, the one who never needs anything, the one who is always available, the one whose reactions can be predicted because they are all filtered through the same wound management systems. And when you begin to heal, when the patterns begin to change, some of those people will not know what to do with the new version of you. Some will be delighted. They will sense the aliveness, the authenticity, the genuineness of the healed version of you, and they will be drawn toward it. The relationships will deepen and become more real. This is the good news about healing's relational effects. But some will be threatened, not consciously or maliciously, but functionally. They may have been deriving something from your wound, the sense of being needed, the sense of being more together than you, the comfort of your predictability. When you change, when the wound no longer organizes your behavior in the way it did, they may push back. They may try to put you back in the box you have been in. They may question the change, minimize it, or react in ways that make you feel that healing is causing more problems than it is solving. I want you to be prepared for this, and I want you to stay the course regardless. Healing is not contingent on everyone around you approving of it. The resistance of others is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is often evidence that you are doing something right, that genuine change is happening, that old patterns that serve the wound, rather than the whole person, are actually shifting. That discomfort in the people around you is the friction of real change. And real change is what you came for. I will help you navigate the relational changes that come with healing. I will show you who to move closer to and who to create distance from. I will help you hold your ground in the face of pressure to go back to who you were. I will give you the language for the new boundaries you need and the courage to maintain them when they are tested. I am not just in the private interior work of healing. I am in the relational dimension of it as well. I am walking with you into every aspect of the life that the healing is going to produce. Now, let me speak about the children who might be watching this. Not the young children, but the grown ones. Those of you who are in your 20s or 30s or 40s, and you are only now beginning to understand that the wound you carry has roots in your childhood. Maybe you have had this dawning awareness recently, maybe through therapy or a conversation, or simply through life events that have revealed the pattern clearly enough that you can no longer deny it's there. And with that awareness has come something complicated, a mixture of clarity and grief, of relief at finally understanding and pain at what the understanding reveals. If that is you, I want to speak to you specifically. This awareness is not a judgment of your parents or your caregivers. Even as you begin to understand the wound and where it came from, I want to hold space for the complexity of that. Most people who wound their children are themselves wounded. Most deficits of attunement, most failures of love, most patterns of harm that pass from one generation to the next are not products of malice, but of brokenness perpetuating itself. That does not make it acceptable. It does not minimize the impact on you. But understanding the chain of woundedness can be part of how compassion develops alongside the grief. Compassion for yourself, and eventually, in the right season, compassion for those who wounded you out of their own unhealed wounds. You are where the chain can break. In you, in this generation, in the willingness you are demonstrating right now to look at the wound and seek healing, the pattern that has been moving through your family's history can stop. Not by your own strength, not by white-knuckling a different behavior pattern, but by healing. because healed people do not perpetuate the wound in the same way. Healed people have access to responses, capacities, and relational skills that the unhealed person simply does not have. And those healed responses change what is passed to the next generation. This is a significant reason to do the healing work, not just for yourself, though your own wholeness is reason enough, but for the people who will come after you, for the children in your life, whether your own or others, who are watching how you navigate pain and either learning that it is hidden or learning that it is brought into the light, for the relationships that will be different because you are different, for the world that changes one person at a time as hidden wounds come into the light and are healed by the one who specializes in exactly this. Let me speak now about a season of healing, because I want you to have a realistic picture of what the journey looks like over time. I have spoken about breakthrough moments, and I want to speak about the in-between, because most of healing happens in the in-between, in the ordinary days between the breakthroughs, and knowing what to expect there is important for not losing heart. In the in-between, you will have good days and less good days. You will have days when the healing feels very real, when there is a lightness and a freedom that you can almost not believe is available to you, when the wound feels genuinely distant and its power genuinely diminished. And you will have days when it doesn't feel that way at all, when something triggers the old patterns, and you respond in the old way, and you wonder if anything has changed at all. Those days do not cancel the healing. They are part of the healing. They are the places where the new patterns are being tested and strengthened, where the old responses are slowly being replaced by new ones through the work of practice and grace. Do not let the hard days convince you that the good days were an illusion. Both are real. Both are part of the journey. In the in-between, you will encounter the wound in places you did not expect to. A conversation will go in a direction that suddenly connects to the hidden thing. A movie or a song or a piece of scripture will land differently than it ever has because it is touching something that is now more accessible than it was when it was buried. A relationship will ask something of you that used to be unavailable because the wound was in the way, and you will be surprised by what you are now able to give. These unexpected encounters are not setbacks. They are evidence of the healing. The wound is not hidden anymore, and so it meets the world more directly. That can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it is also alive. And alive is better than numbed and sealed. In the in-between, keep coming back to me. Keep returning to the practice of honest presence with me. Keep bringing what surfaces to the conversation with me rather than sealing it again. The temptation, as the acute urgency of the initial breakthrough fades, is to go back to managing, to treat the moments of healing as the destination rather than the beginning of an ongoing journey. Resist that temptation. The healing is sustained and deepened and completed in the ongoing encounter with me, not in a single transformative moment, as real as those moments are, but in the accumulated practice of daily honest openness. I will meet you there every day. I will not tire of you bringing the same things back to me. I will not be impatient with your progress or compare it unfavorably to someone else's. I will meet you exactly where you are, as you are, for as long as it takes, with the same commitment and the same love and the same capacity for healing on day 1000 as on day 1. I am in this for the long haul with you. Do not let the length of the journey discourage you. Long journeys taken with a faithful companion are different from long journeys taken alone. And you are not alone. My child, I want to speak to you about what life looks like on the other side, not to romanticize it or make promises that bypass the reality of the journey, but because I think many of you have been so long in the wound that you have lost the capacity to imagine what wholeness would actually feel like. And I want to restore that imagination, because hope is a living thing and it needs to be fed with vision, with the capacity to see forward into the healed version of your life. On the other side of the hidden wounds healing, you will know yourself more fully. The self that you have been presenting to the world and the self that has been living in the hidden places will begin to converge. And the experience of that convergence will be something like relief and something like joy and something like finally being able to breathe all the way to the bottom of your lungs. You will not have to manage the gap between your public and private self, because the gap will be closing. You will not have to use energy to maintain the seal on the wound, because the wound will be healing, and healed wounds do not need to be maintained. That energy, the enormous amount of energy that has been going into the management of the hidden thing, will be available for other things, for presence, for creativity, for genuine connection, for the work I made you for. And you will notice the difference. You will feel lighter, more available, more fully here. On the other side, your relationships will have a different quality. Not perfect. I am not promising you perfect relationships, because the people in your relationships are also on their own journeys and have their own wounds and their own work to do. But the quality of your relating will be different. There will be more genuine intimacy, because the thing that was preventing full intimacy, the wound and the walls that protected it, will be less dominant. You will be able to receive love more fully, because you will no longer be constantly braced for it to be withdrawn or weaponized. You will be able to give love more freely, because you will be giving from a place that is less depleted and more whole. And you will find it easier to identify the safe people from the unsafe ones, because the wound that used to distort your perception, either making everyone seem dangerous or making you blind to genuine danger, will be healing, and with it, your discernment will sharpen. On the other side, your experience of me will be different. The relationship with me will have a quality of genuine intimacy rather than managed religion. You will pray not because you are performing faith, but because you have learned that my presence is actually available and actually healing and actually worth seeking. You will read scripture not to find the right answer to suppress the wound's questions, but to encounter the one who breathes life into everything he touches. You will worship not as an emotional strategy to feel better, but as a genuine response to a goodness that you have experienced personally and profoundly. The faith will be real in a way that it perhaps has not been before, because the healing will have given you evidence of my reality that no argument or doctrine can produce. You will know me. Not just know about me, know me. On the other side, you will have a testimony. And that testimony will not be a sanitized, comfortable, vague story about general blessing. It will be a specific, honest, powerful account of where you were and what I did and who you became. And that testimony will reach people. It'll touch the ones who are exactly where you were, the ones who are keeping the wound hidden, the ones who cannot imagine that healing is possible, the ones who need to hear from someone on the other side that it is real and it works and it is available for them. Your healed wound will become your most powerful ministry. The places that have been most broken will become the places from which the most light comes. This is my pattern. This is what I do with the wounds I heal. I don't just patch them up. I transform them into something luminous, something life-giving, something that serves my purposes in the world in ways that only a healed wound can serve. This is part of why I am so committed to the healing of your hidden wound, not only because I love you and your wholeness matters to me intrinsically, though it does, but because the world needs what comes out of your healed wound. Wyans are the people who are walking in darkness need the light that comes from someone who was in that darkness and came out. And I have placed a specific assignment on your specific healed story that no one else can fulfill. Only you have been through what you have been through. Only you carry the specific combination of wound and healing and understanding that your history has produced. And when that combination is fully available, when the wound is healed and the testimony is alive, what is released into the world through you is something I have been preparing since before you were born. I want that for you. Not just your healing, your purpose. the full expression of who you are and what I made you for. And the path to that purpose, the path to the fullness of what I have designed for your life, runs through the hidden wound. That is not a punishment, that is a design. The very thing you have been most afraid to look at is the doorway to the most significant chapter of your life. Walk through the door, my child. I will be on the other side. And the other side is better than anything the managing and the hiding have produced. Now let me pray over you. And as I pray, I want you to receive this. Not just hear it, receive it. Let it go to the places inside you that are most in need of what is being declared. Do not deflect. Do not minimize. Do not explain it away or qualify it. Just open your hands and receive. I speak over you now, and I say, the wound that has been hidden is safe in my hands. I am not afraid of it. I am not repelled by it. I do not love you less for having it or more for healing it. I love you completely, exactly as you are right now, in this moment, wound and all. And from that place of complete, unconditional love, I speak healing. I speak healing into the foundational wound, the one that started everything. I speak healing into the narratives it produced, the lies about your value, your lovability, your right to take up space in the world. I speak healing into the patterns that were built around the wound, the performance, the hiding, the constant vigilance, the inability to rest. I speak healing into the body where the wound has been stored. Let there be release where there has been holding. Let there be peace where there has been alarm. Let there be safety where there has been perpetual bracing. I speak healing into your relationships. Let the walls come down in the places where safety is real. Let your capacity for genuine intimacy be restored. Let loneliness begin to break. I speak healing into your relationship with me. Let the distance close. Let the guardedness ease. Let the disappointment and the confusion be resolved in honest encounter. Let real intimacy with me become your daily experience. I speak over your future and I say, the pattern breaks here. It breaks in you, in this generation, in this moment. What was inherited does not have to be perpetuated. What was formed in the wound does not have to define the rest of your story. The wound is real and the healing is realer. My power to restore is greater than whatever power the wound has had to damage. And I am exercising that power now in you, for you, through you. Receive it, my child. Do not argue with it, or qualify it, or wait until you feel more worthy of it. The worthiness is not yours to produce. It was given to you before you were born, and it has never been revoked. Receive the healing that is already moving in you as these words are landing. Receive the love that has never left, even when you could not feel it. Receive the future that I have prepared, the one that is better than anything your wound-organized life has been able to produce. It is here. It is for you. And it begins now. My child, there is one more thing I want to say to you before we close this time together. And it is this. You are not alone. Not in the wound, not in the hiding, not in the beginning of the healing, not in the long middle of the healing, not on the other side of the healing. I am with you in all of it, not as a concept, not as a theological proposition, not as a distant cosmic entity that is generally benevolent toward humanity. I am specifically, personally, actively, lovingly present with you. With you. Not with humanity in general. With you, the specific person watching this, the one with the specific wound, the specific history, the specific shape of hiding, the specific fear that it is too much, or too hidden, or too late. It is not too much. I am more than enough for your wound. It is not too hidden. I see what is in the darkness as clearly as what is in the light. It is not too late. I am the God who redeems time, who brings to completion what he begins, who does not abandon a work midway through. I am here, in this moment, with you. Fully present, fully committed, fully capable, and fully in love with the person you are and the person you are becoming. Come to me, bring the wound, let the hiding end, and let the healing begin. This is what I came to say to you today. This is my word over your life. This is my invitation and my promise and my declaration. And it is as true for you as it has ever been for anyone who has ever come to me in their most hidden, most wounded, most carefully protected place. I met them there. I healed them there. And I will meet you there. I will heal you there. And what comes out on the other side will be beautiful, deeply, powerfully, unmistakably beautiful, because I am the God who makes all things new. Not slightly revised, not somewhat improved, all things new. Receive it, beloved. It is for you, all of it, every word of it, every promise in it, every dimension of healing it describes. It is yours. Claim it. Walk toward it. And let this be the day that the hidden wound begins to step into the light. I love you. I am proud of you for being here. And I will not stop until you are whole. Please support this ministry through the link given below. This message is a lifeline for people who are living with hidden wounds right now. People who have no idea that healing is available for the specific thing they have been keeping in the dark for years. When you give, you reach them. Please support this ministry through the link given below, and let us keep this word going to everyone who needs it. The work we are doing together through this channel is significant. Every word spoken here is a seed planted in someone's life. Every person who receives healing becomes a person who carries healing forward into their world. And you are part of that chain when you give, when you share, when you stay and receive, when you come back and bring someone with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing. And thank you for the courage it took to sit with this word and let it go all the way in. The wound is not the end of your story, my child. It is the place where your story finally becomes what it was always meant to be. Step into it with me today.